Okay. Well, hi, we're Team Brown. My name is Melissa, and this is
Jan.
Brian.
Kristen.
Karen.
Sasha.
Hillary.
Have you guys seen this thing called Zinio? It's this new site. Have any of you seen it?
Yeah.
It's like these awesome magazines. This is the greatest thing. I love magazines. And basically, I just got this iPad, and you can see all these different magazines. So of course I have my Economist, and I've got my Harvard Business Review, which I love, and the Star, because I need to see the stars without makeup. And Kim Kardashian's having twins, I think, or she is a twin, I'm not sure. But it's the coolest thing, and you know what? I get it from my library. I just download this from my library's website. It is the best thing I've ever seen. Now imagine having that conversation out in your community between two tweens, between a couple of seniors, maybe some people who are speaking a language other than English to one another. Imagine those conversations going on all over your community about something like Zinio, or the movie night program that you have, or the job research databases and services that you have, going on in your community between members of your community with one another. Yes, we are talking about community embeds. We are going to embed volunteers, a select group of volunteers in your from your library, or our library actually. We're representing, we picked Niles. We're representing Niles Library.
Yep.
We are going to embed members of the Nile community within their segment of the Niles community to talk about the resources, materials, services, the relevance of the library to that particular segment of the community. Basically, we're making sure that people know that we're actually not in the library business. We're in the Niles business. We're in the people of Niles business. We are going to send volunteers out to the library to talk up the library, but not just to talk about the library, but to also bring information back to the library. It's almost kind of an INR service in a way, information and referral. Yes, they will go out and talk about what kind of resources the library offers them, but they will also bring back information from their conversations, maybe even real time if we let them take one of our devices out in the library and using the IM system that we already have in our library, they could do a real reference question right there, right then, right away, online with a live librarian during library hours.
4, 3.
Don't ask me any question that is going to involve a lawyer, a funder.
All right, questions. Toby has the microphone over there.
I have more to say.
We also, basically you're sending spies from the library out into the community.
You've got it.
I already don't want to give my library card at the library for fear that they're going to know everything about me. Then, plus switch, you know, if I'm a library board member and you're out in the community, you might be going to the donut shop, Starbucks, shopping.
Well, first of all, you are a volunteer, so I hope you are going to the Starbucks, the donut shop, and shopping with your device, and when you run into your neighbor, that you tell him about what the library is bringing to you. I'm not asking you for any information.
Yeah, and you know, the great thing about this is it's conversation. It's not just someone standing up and talking to a group. It's at your church, at your neighborhood, at your play school, wherever you are, talking about how you're using your library and making sure that people who have common concerns know about the resources that they're already paying for, get the best bang from their buck from their community, and it makes the whole community stronger.
And we have a question over here from Andrea.
First of all, I want to say, Melissa, I want you to do my next pitch. And that was fabulous. I'm so honored. But I would like to know, we have a hard time making sure that our staff members are giving correct information about all the different things that we do. How do you make sure that your volunteers are not giving misinformation?
You are absolutely right, and that is a challenge that we do have with volunteers and with staff.
And so we would definitely set up training for these volunteers. We would build into that training rewards,
for coming to the training and being a part of the great mission that we have. So it's our community helping the library spread the good news about what the library has to offer to everybody.
And at a certain point, you do have to have a level of trust with both your volunteers, your board members, and your staff. I mean, think about the folks who are volunteers at the Art Institute. They are required to spend a certain amount of time there every week and to get a certain amount of training, but then they're really out there on their own talking. I mean, maybe that's not a saison, you know? You do have to trust at a certain point. I think this gentleman has a question.
Well,
too.
actually, Brad has a question.
Sorry.
If you have a question, feel free to go to one of the microphones.
So are these embedded library people going to be identified in some way? Because I can imagine I had a nice conversation with this person. I thought they were interested in me, and then it turns out.
It's funny you bring that up because the model that we are working on are those sort of, you know, ladies who go into the bars, maybe gentlemen too, and suggest that you buy a certain brand of alcohol. But that will be part of the training, is that they do identify themselves as a library volunteer, which is how they necessarily have this little device that they're walking around with, or how they have this information. Yes, and we're assuming, and I can jump in here, good friends here. We're assuming also that they're going to be kind of proud of the fact. These are true believers. These are people who are library users who are volunteering their time. I mean, I know I can't shut my mouth about libraries, and I work in them. And I think if I were volunteering for them, I'd be talking about it all the time too, and identifying myself as a library volunteer. That's the kind of person we want.
I think this is a nice idea, but I would question the bigness of the idea. I wonder if you could address the scale of the plan. You're talking about like number of volunteers, the scale of the benefit you expect to get out of it, based on a certain hit or miss proportion that would be expected.
We go about it kind of starting small and then possibly growing a bigger. We'd start with about 10 good, strong, passionate volunteers, do the training for them, send them out into the community in the various segments, get some feedback, wait until we get the first feedback from those 10 people, see how it's going, reevaluate it, and then if it's working, then grow it.
So you don't have a target of like how many, how do you even measure success?
Well, that's what we talked about. We did talk about creating a project plan that would talk about measuring success, and there are a couple of ways. The problem that this is solving is the fact that, you know, there is a big percentage of our population that does not come in and use our library, that does not have a library card. So we would begin by looking at the number of cards. Does that go up? Per capita use of resources, attendance at programs, and then again, these conversations that the people have. There would be documentation of that. And we would start out small with the low-lying fruit, the people that already are pretty committed to the library and pretty visible, moms and kids, seniors, and then we would branch out into other aspects of our community that are a little harder to reach, maybe because of language or cultural differences.
All right, we're trying to get our last 2 questions in. Julie?
How are you going to avoid this turning into a library avoidance thing? Because it's starting to make me feel like what happens, like those people that hand out leaflets downtown. Like, turn off the lights when the Jehovah's Witnesses come by. How are you going to prevent that from happening?
These are not strangers. This is not someone you don't know coming to your door. This is a member of your community. You're in church. Pardon?
Within your own community.
Right.
People you know.
Right. So when I'm at the Starbucks and I see that Starbucks lady that I see every week who knows what I order right away, I might show her this. Or I might show somebody else that, you know, commented on my holiday socks when I was in the Starbucks.
Yeah, it would be a mix of formalized and informal. I mean, people could go out and be at some table somewhere, but they would also be talking to their friends and their family and things like that.
We're
So.
not envisioning them flagging you down on the sidewalk and saying, hey, come talk to me.
Have you been saved by libraries?
Right, Janet has a question for us over here.
I'm the president of your friends group. Is this something that we can help you with?
You are more than welcome to apply for one of the positions.
We will let you fund incentives for the volunteers.
Yes, and you may especially fund the incentives.
I mean, can we be volunteers? Is this something we might already be doing?
Well, if you live in a segment of the community, that's the stipulation.
We did talk, actually, just to step out of persona for a minute, we did talk about the difference between volunteers and friends in the library, and in many libraries that distinction already exists, and we see a difference between a friends group and a volunteer group. They may not see the difference, or you may not have that distinction, but there are people who are volunteers who are not officially friends, and there are people who are friends who their volunteer work is the book sale, and that's pretty much it.
And friends report to and are governed by their board. Our volunteers work for us. And that's a big distinction and a big way that we can keep control over this project.
Well, they work for us and they work for themselves.
Right.
Because they get a lot of satisfaction out of doing what they're doing,
They
spreading good news to their neighbors.
They would take direction from the volunteer coordinator.
Nice job, nice